What's going on, everybody? Louie T here, and it's Tuesday. You know what that means. We are back with another crypto market update, and it's a sad one. We talked at length last week about two key things that I was watching for crypto and for high beta risk assets. One was the Bitcoin weekly high time frame structure, and two was the Russell low cap stock index breaking into all-time highs and into price discovery, both of which did not pan out the way we wanted to see it, as being in the bull camp. So we're going to dive into it. We're going to take a look at what has happened over the last week and kind of what are my thoughts? What am I thinking about this recent price action? Bitcoin's pulling back. ETH is pulling back further. Altcoins, they're okay. Not too horrible. Is there a catch-up trade to the downside for alts? We're going to talk about it. And let's just dive into it. No need to yap any longer. So here we have Bitcoin on the weekly time frame, guys. High time frame chart for Bitcoin. Last week, I talked at length about hanging in the bull camp because the weekly candle closes were continuing to respect high time frame structure, which was our January highs from the beginning of this year. And I stated, as long as our weekly candle closes continue to respect these highs, continue to stair-step market structure, I am forced to remain bullish, right? Because backtracking a little bit, I've been a Bitcoin bull since down in the summer of 2022. This has been a multi-year cycle swing trade for me, which started back in 2022. I was buying Bitcoin at 17.5K and using weekly high time frame structure and allowing Bitcoin to put in multi-month consolidation, deep pullbacks that occasionally break market structure, but save it and remain in a bullish high time frame uptrend has allowed me to stay alive, during a pullback such as this, during a pullback such as this, during a pullback this, during a consolidation such as this, during a consolidation just like this, and treating the market and this long-term multi-year swing trade this way has allowed me to remain in the market for the meat of the move, which has been the last 3 years, and has allowed me to make money in opportunities in this market and not flip-flopping every time we get a correction and a pullback in this market. So I still do stand on business here and say that I do not regret giving Bitcoin wiggle room to the downside, giving and waiting for a weekly close confirmation of a market structure break, because it's allowed me to profit and stay in the game for the last 3 years. And if you're not a trader, which most people aren't, most people work full-time jobs and have the time to trade this market, your average investor is better off holding during and through these consolidations rather than trying to time every local top and local bottom in this market. And that's how I've made my living and made my profits over the last 8 years in this market. However, after last week's close, we have now sadly broken and confirmed a weekly bearish market structure break for Bitcoin with last week's weekly close. We have now officially closed the weekly below our January highs of around 100K. We are trading well below 100K at this point, trading just around 93.5K. And I am forced now to flip kind of more defensive. I wouldn't say bearish, right? Because I am more of a bullish leaning long-sided trader. I'm super into shorting and stuff like that. I can and will, but I am, the way just my mind works and how I look at the markets, I find more of an edge in looking for long opportunities, buying assets at value, and stuff like that. But I am definitely flipping way more defensive, building some cash positions at this point, because I can no longer defend Bitcoin, being bullish on the higher time frame at this point in time, right? And unless we have some miraculous save for Bitcoin where it can somehow reclaim 100K, reclaim high time frame market structure, confirm price acceptance back above this level, and start to climb, I have to remain defensive, right? Because there will be bounces along the way, right? Which, I think this is maybe not the starts, but maybe the beginning couple innings of, a little bear market for Bitcoin, whether it's a long term, whether it's a short term. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but there will be bounces along the way, in my opinion, for Bitcoin. Just looking back at 2022, which, might not have to look like this at all, but we had little bounces. We had kind of bear flag bounces on the journey to the bear market lows for Bitcoin. Do we get a 78, 80% correction for Bitcoin? I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't. Do we get a multiple, a year and a half long reaccumulation? I don't think so. I think the drop and the reaccumulation will be quicker than what we've seen in the past for Bitcoin. I really do. Just with the institutions, the ETFs, everything kind of for this infrastructure of this asset class, or at least specifically for Bitcoin, is leaning, in my opinion, more towards that route. So yeah, there can be bounces, right? We can see a bounce back up into 100, 101, 102K. But in my opinion, after the weekly bearish, market structure break, bounces are bounces until proven otherwise. And you don't want to get caught trying to long the bottom, trying to catch these and play these bounces that are just going to end up being lower high bounces, where eventually I could see Bitcoin kind of returning down into this area, right? Doesn't have to, right? There are levels that we could go to on the daily time frame. But as far as the weekly time frame is concerned, I mean, you have these lows at this point in time with this market structure break. If we're not bottoming from here, having that miraculous save that I talked about, which is always on the table, right? I've seen Bitcoin do this before, where you have a miraculous save after a market structure break for Bitcoin. It has done it, right? So I'm not completely counting it out. I have some altcoin exposure. I do. But I am very defensive. So I can see, this as being the most logical spot for Bitcoin, where if we do get a pullback down into this area, continued downturn into this area, this is one where you'd want to see it hold. And two, I think this is great value prices for Bitcoin to likely catch another rally. Again, if, we don't miraculously somehow bounce here, there's not much on the weekly time frame holding us up here until you kind of get into this, 60, 70K area for Bitcoin. Sad to say it. I'm a bull. Trust me. This is not what I want to be talking about. And sure, you could say, oh, you're a little late. Well, yeah. I mean, again, I need, this is a multi-year long swing trade for me. I need high time frame confirmation of the trend changing. That came last week with this weekly bearish market structure break. To kind of clarify, this is the first time ever we're seeing a Bitcoin top occur, not in euphoria, right? Not in, an environment where Bitcoin has rallied up the lows and we've seen altcoins rally and have massive runs across the board. We haven't seen a euphoric Bitcoin top, and we haven't seen the altcoin market do its thing that normally follows a bull run rally. So those are things that have changed right now. Can they come later on? Absolutely. And that's why I don't know. I don't think this is going to be a super drawn out multi-year downtrend to bear market to reaccumulation to back to the upside. I think it can be quicker. I do, because we didn't see the altcoin part of the cycle where you see euphoria in the altcoin. You didn't see a blow off euphoric top in Bitcoin like we're used to seeing. And for those reasons, that's why I was still remaining bullish, right? Because that's what we've seen in the past, and that's all we have as far as data is concerned. So sadly, we did get our weekly bearish market structure break. Again, there will be bounces along the way. I'm going to remain patient as far as what I'm going to be bidding and what I'm buying. I will be playing bounces, but that's going to be more of a thing that I'm doing in the Discord, as I only do these videos once a week. If you want to get in the Discord, check the links down below. Get in there. We're going to be playing, bounces. We're going to be looking for other opportunities out there in the stock market, stuff like that. So if you want to get involved with that, check the links down below and join us there. But I'm in defensive mode, right? I still own altcoins. I will be more defensive here as far as positioning and stuff like that, and not fully risk on here in this environment. Another thing that we talked about in last week's video was the Russell, right? The Russell being the leading risk on indicator for the crypto market, right? And we talked about kind of this COVID fractal that looked similar to what was played last cycle, where you had your COVID, your all-time highs, your big scary drop, your return to all-time highs, and then a break into price discovery. And during this year-long period for the Russell was when we saw the altcoin market and Bitcoin go on a monster rally. And this is where we kind of were a week ago, looking as if we were going to break into all-time highs and price discovery. But instead, what are we seeing? We're seeing, once again, price kind of reject or deviate at the old all-time highs. So does that mean that the Russell is not going to break into price discovery at all? No, I don't think so. I think it just needs that we need more time, right? Maybe, we need a deeper pullback. Maybe we come back into levels around here and then go for it again, right? Or maybe we're just in a multi-year range, right? Maybe the Russell needs to range for longer from kind of this crazy cycle we had in 2021. Maybe the market still is kind of processing and healing from all that money printing and everything that went on during the COVID era, right? So I'm leaning more towards back, maybe, however long that takes, I don't know, before going for it again and then breaking all-time highs. It's something we saw back in 2012, something very similar, where we did come for all-time highs and we dropped, right? We had a big drop at the all-time highs, trying to break it 25%. And then it took us, 1, 2, 3 attempts, and we kept rejecting at all-time highs until we finally coiled and broke said all-time high. So I'm still going to be watching the Russell as far as an indicator. Right now, that indicator not flashing as bullish as it was a week ago, right? So another reason why having to get more defensive here. I can't just be hopelessly bullishly optimistic when I'm seeing the Bitcoin, the rejection at all-time highs out of the Russell. I mean, look, this could easily turn around and go, right? And then I just have to flip back bullish and more of a risk on. If we see something like this, Russell reclaiming all-time highs, price acceptance above these highs, the 2021 highs, and the Russell starting to do this, I am happy. I will happily flip back, more of on gone, less defensive tone. But until I see that, it just makes sense, and it's not. I don't think it's the wisest thing to be overly, max risk on at this point in time as to what it looked compared to a week or two ago. So those are my thoughts, guys. Those are my thoughts. Kind of giving the market time. Letting Bitcoin do its thing, finish this pullback. Again, I don't want to get super microscopic as far as, lower time frame stuff. I think that is more of a trap. It's going to chop you up, trying to play every little bounce, trying to call the bottom. I think last week was our last chance at that. It failed. And now we're kind of in that territory where it's looking like Bitcoin is due for a deeper pullback. Another thing that I'm looking at too is equities look due for a massive pullback. Whether it comes or not, I don't know. The equity market has been proven to be very, very resilient for the last several years. But I mean, this has been a straight grind to the upside off the April lows of this year, and has not really had any significant pullback at all. We're losing daily trend. We're starting to kind of flatten out versus an uptrend here. If we start to see an equity market start to pull back, it's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin and crypto to find a bottom, at least in the term. Not saying, a couple weeks from now or a month from now, we can be that bottom or that low. I just find it very hard to see a scenario where the equity markets have a steeper pullback after a massive rally and crypto bucks hard against the trend and really starts to rally. Maybe if the equity market does pull back and we start approaching a key level where the equities start getting close to a bottom, I could see a scenario where crypto does kind of front run the lows a little bit. But until I see confirmation of Bitcoin back above 100K, the Russell attacking all-time highs again, it's really, really tough for me to remain bullish at this time and a more defensive kind of stance in this market. Put some cash in your pocket, wait to buy that opportunity of discounted altcoins, because I still do believe that altcoins will have their time to shine, but I am going to be much and picky with which altcoins I will be buying versus what I've done in the past. And that's a lesson I've learned over these last couple, this last year or two, is one, the Bitcoin, the altcoin market is changing. We're seeing this market shift and change and evolve as time goes on, as well as what has sustainable bids, what has a place in the future of crypto. Going to be way more picky and specific with those projects I do decide to invest in. And that's markets. You live, you learn, and you with the ending flow of these markets. So that's all I got, guys. I will keep you updated. I think we're going to probably stay pretty focused on these topics going into the next couple weeks. Maybe I'll bring on a guest here and there. But these are the things I'm going to be watching. And as we start getting closer to what I think can be the lows for Bitcoin and ETH, I will be starting to cover some altcoins that I will be looking at for potential high value buys, right? So again, I know I mentioned that we were going to look at Bitcoin a lower time frame here. This is the daily chart. Sure, right? We're coming into this daily cluster of demand. I believe there was a CME gap right down here. We filled it. So again, I'm not saying this is going to go straight down, right? There are going to be bounces, right? I could easily see a bounce for Bitcoin back up into 100K area, right? But the question is it a dead cat bounce before a bigger lower into that 60 to 75, 80K area? Or is this the biggest trap of all time? Bitcoin reclaims 100K and then we go. This is the information I need. I need this if it's going to happen, or I need this. And then, I have to be doing business in one of these two areas, not in between. It's just too risky. After what we've seen, you're going to chop yourself up. I've done it in the past. I'm not doing it again. So again, there will be bounces along the way, whether it's here or lower. You're better off just staying on the higher time frame, in my opinion, and just, again, waiting for confirmation. Are we going to get this? Are we going to get this? We don't know, right? But doing business in the middle, I think it is a riskier game, right? It is a riskier game. So that's all I got, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you back next week. Stay safe out there. Continue to look for opportunities and start now, right? For those opportunities now. So when the time comes, you're ready to pull the trigger in a big way. That's what I'm doing. And that's what I'll be going over in the Discord over the next couple of weeks. So again, check out the links below for the Discord for day-to-day market updates from me and the rest of the team in these trying times. You don't really get the full picture on YouTube and on X. It's very minimal. The real picture is in the Discord, in our analyst channels, and in our morning and afternoon calls. So check that out. Like, subscribe, put on post notifications, and I'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.